Greetings. Just a quick list here of things that I myself have believed that were completely wrong, or things that my family and the society around me believed that were completely wrong, and some of the myths that are ongoing. Um, One of the first big myths that my society embraced was that baby formula was better for you than mother's milk. This was widely accepted notion. This was science in the early 60s that baby formula was better for your baby than mother's milk. So some children were given formula and were denied mother's milk. They therefore did not get bifidobacteria and other immuno-enhancing features they would have gotten from their mother's milk. And they went on to have tonsillitis, many of them, big problems. There were some other myths associated kind of with that at that time, that the mass spraying of DMT are all over was okay. It was good. Not DMT. What was it called? I smelled it. I liked it. It was a fog to get rid of the mosquitoes and stuff. But there was this idea that was totally innocuous and fine. Just spray everybody with the toxic cloud, and that mother's milk was better. Let's get back to the list here. Okay, so soon after that, convincing moms and everybody, mother's milk not good, formula better. Another big lie people embraced, okay? And they're still kind of embracing this. People that are taking on statins, people that are doing nutrition by the numbers, doing healthcare by the numbers, they're still kind of buying this. And that is that margarine is better for you than butter. Natural, good, whole milk churned, freshly churned butter, bad. Chemical seed extracts, good. Margarine, good. Butter, bad. Okay, that was science. That was a notion that was widely held, widely embraced. Okay. Another notion widely embraced back at that time was that Native Americans, people here on the American continent that did not migrate across from the Atlantic as European conquering invaders, the generations that came before that and were on this continent, that they had only been here for 10,000 years, only one ice age. So they'd all come over the last ice age, right? Across the Bering Strait, and boom, they were only here for 10,000 years. Now, of course, native storytellers and people within those cultures said, oh, no, we have stories that involve saber-toothed tigers and mastodons, and we actually have bones of those things. And so we've been here a little longer than just 10,000 years. Try to. We're saying, Native American people, lore, people telling their stories. We're saying, we don't know what happened much before, but we know it's been longer than 20,000 years. So we're saying 2 ice ages ago, maybe, there was some kind of migration from Mongolia, Siberia, whatever, that led to this seeding this continent with the human vibe. Could there just have been people here? What about the Black Seminoles and stuff like that? Maybe from Africa earlier, right? Who knows? So there's always, mystery when you go way, way back to the super origins of things. But certainly we can start to agree on what happened about 20,000 years ago, that there were a lot of cultures here and that they went through 2 ice ages here. That's now accepted science, and it wasn't before. We're thinking it constantly evolves. I mean, there was a time, when Galileo was thrown under house arrest for saying that maybe the sun is more central around here than our Earth. Maybe we're, in fact, revolving around the sun. And then for saying that, of course, he was, called crazy and stuff, treated poorly. The inventor of the vaccine was treated poorly. The person who said that blood circulated in our veins, that there was liquid circulating in our bodies, he was poo-pooed and laughed at. So science evolves, and it's not always right. The consensus at any given time actually can be wrong, despite what's his name, who replaced Carl Sagan. He's nowhere near the same power of Carl Sagan, but he replaced Carl Sagan. Everybody loved him. He's so likable. Tyson. Anyway, he is a big thing. Oh, you just have to believe, trust the science, and that means the consensus. What we've all agreed to in consensus is that mRNA vaccines are better than attenuated whole virus vaccines. That's what this consensus says now. That's what the science says now, because that's where all the money is. So science, unfortunately, is undermined or problem. It's a problem now because of money, or like everything that follow the money, right? So, and what they've shown, the establishment, the quote unquote scientists, shown that they're willing to do, and they've done it over and over again, is to suppress cheap, effective remedies that would actually make society healthier in order to get them hooked on monthly recurring medicines that they maybe don't need, but that they would buy every month. They'd be forced to have it every month now because of some condition that's sort of been engineered in their body. So they now have type 2 diabetes, and they absolutely need insulin. They can't, their pancreas no worky. Boom, they now depend on, when you take the insulin, also pancreas diminishes your ability to manufacture. Insulin goes down, and you're now an insulin dependent zombie. And or they convince you, oh, just there's something just wrong, Jeff. Your cholesterol genetically, I mean, maybe it's your liver. You're just making cholesterol, and cholesterol is bad. We're gonna vilify a whole category of food, fat, and just say that it's bad. And if you have it in your veins, oh my god, bad. So nutrition by the numbers, Jeff. Oh my god, we're going to get you on this thing called a statin. We're going to get you on this thing, kind of trick some little lever, makes you maybe produce less cholesterol. We don't know what else it's doing to you, but just take it every month, So anyway, what my point is that there's a lot of things that we have believed in the past that were wrong, and there's things that we believe now that are wrong, right? And we're kind of under a spell. There's been so much crisis. I want to say since September 11th, 2001. Is that when it started? I don't know. We had a bad election in 2000. Dimple Chads, Roger Stone, and Stop the Count, Florida. I think we were pretty much, our culturally, America, in terms of our empire gaining ground, doing good, starting to collapse. I think starting maybe around that time, the election of 2000, and how poorly that went, and how we saw that there wasn't really an independent media at the time that was capable of getting around these political figures and actually just telling a story to the American people about what had just happened, the 2000 election. They couldn't do it somehow. So you had partisans, you had Fox News, Republicans on the side of Jeb Bush and Catherine Harris. And then you had, Democrats that thought their job is just to oppose them and don't really tell the whole story, that kind of thing. So that kind of was set up, the hyperpartisanship, the sort of breakdown of our faith and our ability to do things together, like hold elections or fight a virus or something like that. That all started I want to say in November of 2000, the failed election of 2000. This got worse. So 2004, you had problems in Ohio. And we identified names of machines, companies that failed. Somehow we couldn't stop using the machines that we knew weren't working. We couldn't just take logical steps to go ahead and just figure out a way to count votes again. That inspired confidence. So we had a problem again in 2004. Also, political figures were able to sort of weaponize the concept of gay marriage in order to distract people and problems. So a lot of people were distracted with this issue that just should have been a no-brainer. You should be able to get married to whoever you want, no problem. You marry, you do you. Now, if there's state money involved or anything like that, then maybe we need to talk about that. But just, you want to go out there and get married somewhere, go for it. Now, if a church says, hey, we're kind of like this old school Christianity here, we don't really want, there's some passages in our Bible, very clearly against this. So we're just going to protect our rights to just not perform those ceremonies. But we don't, you go outside of here, and maybe there's a church that would enjoy doing gay marriage, And I think more of the popular churches now are all about gay marriage. So anyway, but that was that was sort of something that was a social issue that was weaponized, made divisive, sort of like what was done with abortion and so forth. And we saw that in 2004. And, just going forward, oh my God, things getting worse. Of course, the internet is coming on heavy in those early 2000s. And by the end of by 2010, everyone's on it. By 2013, I think we're at a new era. And that is because most people, teens, children included, are now holding a smartphone. By 2013, I want to say, pretty much a smartphone that can take a picture, camera phone, and post it on some kind of social media. Most people are involved in that kind of a thing by 2013. And that's really the last time Western society was logical, had a chance to getting back to logic. Had we had heeded the warnings of Marshall McLuhan and, the good side of Noam Chomsky when he was writing Manufacturing Consent and all this kind of stuff. So we really needed to focus on what was happening with our mind, our independent media environment. Of course, we didn't. There were some efforts, some real heroic efforts to start independent media. These were always tied to partisans and other flawed people, flawed groups, flawed money sources. It didn't follow through, didn't continue. The Independent Media Center was started in Seattle in 1999. So awesome, so much promise. Unfortunately, run by kind of reform capitalist academes who thought they were really cool, and quasi-communist, socialist, RCP types, whatever, that were able to kind of not really be that cool, and so it didn't really ever grow and expand and become the thing it was. It could have been, should have been, wasn't. We don't have independent media today. If I talk to anyone in my factory, if I stop 10 people in my factory, hey, have you heard of Channel 7? Of course, ABC. Have you heard of the Independent Media Center? No, they haven't. They haven't seen it. They don't know where it is. IndieBay.org maybe has some events. That's really cool. But no one seems to go to it or know about it around me. It's totally dead in the water. It's ineffective. So we never got the alternative media environment that we really needed to fight for. The alternative media needed to hold a place. Actually, in reality, it really has supplanted legacy media because people already know legacy media is a bunch of crap, especially since 96, since the legislation that consolidated it even further, Telecommunications Act of 1996. Since then, it's been worse and worse. Everybody knows it. So they're turning to things like Joe Rogan. They're listening to this long form, loosely, not what the establishment will tell you, and what one side of us will tell you, and it's kind of true in some sense, is that nobody has any attention span. You've got to give them boobies and explosions, and if they don't see tits and explosions in the first 2 seconds, they're gonna change the channel. They're gonna flip. They don't have any attention span. They can't sustain a thought, or there's no need to think about completing a thought or finishing something or being logical, because they're not logical anymore. They're emotionally animals, and we have to treat them as such and feed them like you would feed an emotional animal, not an intellectual looking for details and answers. And that transition happened. But in fact, what human behavior would really tell you is that people are trying to get around all that hooey, all that hype, and they know it's a bunch of hype and manipulative BS, and that really truth comes out in storytelling. That's an ancient human tradition, telling stories, sitting around talking. And so doing this in this long form type interview, that's where you get nuance. That's where you get truth. You get some aspects about the Democrats that are awesome, and some things about them that are bad. And that's what people can do in a long form interview with, say, Joe Rogan, or on a comedy show like with Jimmy Dore. They can make jokes about what's happening and get around some of these filters that are aggressively filtering out the truth on legacy media. Everybody knows that. They went there. Their numbers are way higher. Nobody's watching CNN. It's way more produced. It costs more money to edit and produce a professional segment of news for CNN, but it's not. It's crap. And everybody knows it, right? They'd rather hear somebody just turns on a camera and points it at themselves and talks. If that person is truthful with you, are truthful with themselves. Maybe they make mistakes at times. They get things wrong. But it seems like the fact that they think they're telling the truth. They're trying to tell you the truth. You can kind of sense that, and you can kind of feel that, and that's nice. That's better even than someone who's always right, but they're lying to you. You don't like that. Nobody likes that. So, we've just entered a really strange world now where we've embraced so many lies over time that we can no longer get back to the truth. And the truth is, the people need to reset. The working class people need to unite along all lines, especially gender and ethnic lines. Whites and blacks need to be together, and Mexicans. We're so good when we work together. Native Americans and blacks and whites and Irish and English and people, Estonians and Russians, whatever. It doesn't matter. We all can be together, and we can love each other. We can thrive here. We can thrive here. Estonians and Russians here in America can be neighbors that love each other. Ukrainians and Russians here in America can be neighbors that love each other. Irish and British people here, okay, we can love each other. Okay, so we can do it, right? We can love ourselves. Basically, when you're British and you're loving the Irish, when you're Irish and you're loving the British or the Scottish, you're loving yourself. It's those are your people. When you're really Palestinian or really Jewish from Israel or Judea, you're cousins. You're related. Yeah, that's right. So I don't know. People need to embrace this idea of love and questioning official narratives. We're getting batted around so hard right now. ICE, it's so destabilizing, training these thugs in Israel and releasing them in American cities to brutalize people wearing masks. The Democrats act like they're going to stand up to that. No, they're not. They're capitulating. They're now embracing the idea that these guys might be wearing masks. That we have masked up, unidentified men grabbing people off of our streets. They're embracing that idea now. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, they're coming around to it because they're elites. So they're kind of like, I know we said no mask. We were going to really do that. We were going to go hard in Minneapolis and really demand no mask. But the elites, Israel, I don't know. We are going to be taking a lot of things from the working class people. They really are going to be suffering a lot. demon pedophiles do seem to kind of be running everything. And maybe we do need a militarized police force to keep everything right down. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see the changing of ICE tactics. ICE tactics, we're going to find out later, is a bipartisan tactic that was released on us to trigger us on purpose and to further destabilize the working class, the American people, and the Constitution. When we're united, when we're aware, when we're not triggered, and we're aware that we have constitutional rights, that we are the things that add the value to the economy, our labor, and that our rent, that we actually own this community, that some new LLC that just came here and bought up all the rental property, they maybe need to get thrown out. Just pay them a little fee, get them out of here. They don't need, we own it. We should actually own and run, worker run, manage, and manage buildings, owner occupied buildings, worker run collectives, local control, local say, local medicine. Medicine is better when it's local. Food is better when it's local. When it's a globalized lie, it's being foisted upon you. It's a lie. Okay? So wake up. Look around, become local, become aware. Turn off the noise, turn off the hate, and stop the buzz in your brain about the ICE and everything. Calm down, look what's happening. ICE is bad, but they're not Trump. ICE is not Trump. ICE is a trend that was happening to us. The Department of Homeland Security is a bipartisan project started by the neocons. You could say neocons like, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld kind of neocon generation. James Baker, George Bush 1, and the governor of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Tom Ridge, they started Department of Homeland Security, and businessmen, Wall Street types, mafia thug types in the past started the CIA, 47, right? So these are things, these three-letter agencies, the NSA, the FBI, the CIA, we've totally lost control of them. And there is an Israel element influencing this as well. But we've lost control. And what we needed to do over time was to rein them in, to say, well, okay, we maybe do need some signals intelligence. We need some people being monitored. But we don't need you to take over a desert in Utah for your data center. And we don't need you to be monitoring Americans and all that kind of stuff. No. If something's going overseas, maybe then you need to monitor it. But anything happening here, all the stuff that Snowden revealed you guys are doing, that all needs to stop. Doesn't need to be privatized and brought into Palantir. That's not what needs to happen to it. Total information awareness actually needs to go away, needs to not be happening. Doesn't need to be folded into a private company that can then just do whatever it wants. Palantir, that didn't need to happen. But it did. Anyway, we didn't pay attention. We didn't keep tracking that. The Patriot Act, Department of Homeland Security, the National Defense Authorization Act, privatization, DynCorp, SAIC, these private contractors, and now Palantir. Okay, we didn't notice that Israel, Peter Thiel, Epstein, through this bribery thing they were doing, took over. They've taken over. And our Constitution is on ice. As long as the NSA is allowed to do what it's doing, as long as the DHS is allowed to sick ICE onto our cities, masked, unaccountable men into our cities, and as long as the CIA is allowed to be killing people in Iran in the name of whatever, in order to get rid of the government there. Now, the CIA originally got rid of Mossadegh, democratically elected leader in Iran in the past. And that led to the Ayatollah. That led to the Shia radical element of Shia Islam taking over and becoming popular. They became faux populist demagogues. That's what happens when you sell out to foreign interest. Faux populist demagogues of some kind or other, could be religious or not, tend to rise. That's when you get hardcore Hindus that hate Muslims, or you get Muslims that hate Hindus, or whatever it is that you get in this situation. It comes out of economic suppression and corruption and manipulation, all this kind of stuff. It's not that the Hindus and the Muslims can't get along. That's not it. It's that corruption and manipulation have happened, and so now we got a problem in Kashmir, Pakistan, whatever it is. So it's the same in Palestine, Israel, kind of thing. But Israel has taken over the world. No one's noticed. Israel / British, French intelligence, American CIA kind of thing. They've really taken over, and they've manipulated our minds. They've eaten up our media. I don't hear the frame. I listen to what I hear on NPR now. It's horrible. They can't even put anything in the right frame at all. They're just completely embracing the narratives that are put forth by Pfizer and the defense contractors and the pedophiles that have taken over, pretty much have been running the media and manipulating your minds. So without a free press, without good, critical, conscious raising education, without a sense of community, I don't know how we're going to fight back what's happening. That's what we need. I think only the communities, maybe certain tribal people, can say, hey, not here. We're Cherokees. Get your mRNA vaccine out of here. Get it away from here. Get out of here with your DHS and your ICE agents. Keep your ICE agents off of our reservations. Your ICE agents are not safe on this Indian reservation. Okay, get them off the reservation. So anyway, whoever has local sovereign power of any kind, they could still set the tone and say, hey, we're not going to be eating glyphosate here. We're not going to be eating the crappy processed foods that's being foisted on the rest of America. We're going to control our food. We're going to control our medicine. We're going to have medicine that's based on elder, wise people talking to people, medicine men, doctors, not based on apps and AI that's trying to foist toxic medicines on you. So yeah, local. Fight back, go local, go for it. The time is now. You don't have much time. Most of the humans are going to suffer. Most of you are going to fall into a kind of a digital prison. And you're kind of already entering that digital prison now. You're already eating processed food. You're already diminished hormonally. You're not as much of a man as your dad was. You're not as much, you might be more of a woman than your grandmother was because they're estrogenating a lot of the chemicals that are screwing with our environment. But basically, humans are being changed right now. It's on. The idea for the plebe is that you will die or be some kind of eunuch, some kind of sexless midget eating processed foods, maybe performing some function for the robots or the AI or something. In other words, the plebes, the elites don't picture needing you anymore. They don't picture having you around anymore. They don't need you. They don't want you. They're done with you. And the elites themselves are now going to be sort of soulless, child-humping demons who have morphed into desensitized people, too much time on the internet, too much information, and now they're just kind of soulless demons. So the elites, soulless demons willing to kill thousands of plebes at any given moment, and the plebes forfeited, weak, given up, eating processed foods, listless. Just let me smoke the indica and watch the Netflix. Am I dying? Am I being killed? I think I might be being killed right now. I'm not sure. Hey, this is a cool Netflix series. Where's some indica? You know what I mean? I'm just gonna stay stoned and kind of numbed out, not going to fight. When you stick your head up and fight, boy, they chop it right off, right? So the voice of one crying in the wilderness, nobody wants to be that. Just like Jesus said, a prophet's never welcome in his hometown. They ran him right out of Nazareth. I can't help it. I can't help it. I want to look. I want to see what's happening, and then I want to just tell someone else, maybe just you on the internet. Even if I'm wrong, I don't care. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to make mistakes. Don't care. All right, y'all. I love you, and I want you to have a good one. I'm just feeling so weird. I'm feeling like things we've gone beyond some kind of point. Everything I see out there tells me that too. I'm driving around today. There's just a certain critical mass of people that are stupid. And I mean, they're so stupid that they could be triggered or told to do anything at any moment. I've never felt this way. I felt like there's at least enough educated people in the mix. Maybe if there's 100 people around me, 30 of them would be sort of sane and 70 of them could be tricked. Now I feel like 95 of them could be tricked. 80 of them are already kind of on edge, and there's maybe one or two that thinks like I do, and they're also hiding. They're also in danger. That's really the way I feel when I go out there. Like society is not working. It's breaking down. Like it's the speculation about when the shit happens or when it starts, or you don't need to speculate anymore. It's here. All right. Buck up. Wake up. Start demanding truth. Focus on details. We need the details. Our world has been taken over by pedophile demons. We need to see it and do something and take it back. Local control, local food, local power. If you're eating good local food and talking to 3 generations of people around, seem happy and can go over to the library and check out a book, then you're doing good. If all of you are at work and on an app and none of you are talking to each other in person, then there's something wrong. And you have notions about each other based on what the app told you and not based on actual interactions with the others, something's wrong. It's wrong. I'm telling you, it's wrong. I feel like we're in a civil war. I mean, like, not that we're headed towards a civil war, but kind of like we're already in it. And a lot of us just don't know it yet. Many of us are just not fighting. We're just going to passively going to go down. We're going to be dispossessed. We're going to be kicked out of our houses that we rent from BlackRock right now. We're going to have no rights. That's what I feel, unless we wake up and fight now. All right, have a good one.